Well, thanks so much for coming on. I've wanted to start this just by saying that it's a pleasure to have you on, but it's also a personal feat for me because you were actually the first guy that I followed when I started SEO over 5 years ago. I started reading all your articles. You were like the first guru that I had, so it's quite a pleasure to speak to you.
Oh, thank you.
So it's really great. It's quite the opportunity. But I thought I'd start this podcast going through something a little bit different to SEO as you probably normally do, with just your sort of going back to your sort of kind of youth. I've experienced all your writings and all of your sort of professional career side of things for like I say over the 5 years. But what and as someone that's not been to America, what was life like growing up in America? What was your sort of situation before your career, I suppose?
Oh, interesting question. So, growing in America, so born in New York. I actually live not far from where I grew up. Now, I guess in terms of business and growing up. So, my father was worked at a company called Pitney Bowes. They're a fairly large company that does really postage stuff, but he always had like the latest and greatest technology from there. In fact, um, this Apple Newton that
Oh,
Apple
really?
Newton over there was from him. It's like the original like iPhone, I guess, if you want to call it.
That's amazing.
And that was from like the I think 80s, maybe 90s, maybe 90s. So I was always like involved in like technology. Remember dial up and stuff like putting your phone on a little device and like having the dial up noise. And my brother and I in high school, my brother was a super geek, building websites back, hand coding them back in the early 90s. And
OG coding websites back in the
before there
day.
were any like, before anything was out, before front page or any of those types of tools. And we built like, I don't know, a website for the local Chinese restaurant or stuff like that back when we were in high school. And honestly, I had RustyBrick when I was, you know, in high school. So we were like, 13 or so. For I think 14 or something like that, where we actually had RustyBrick. We had our company then. My brother and I are twins, and we've been running the company since we were in high school. So there was really no before business. It was always business
That's
when we were
amazing.
kids.
13, that's crazy. That's amazing. So you started, did you just come out with the idea after just loving being a geek, basically, like me as well? So is that where it
So
came
my
from?
brother loved coding. He loved building stuff for the web. He built some software applications as well as a kid, and he just didn't like dealing with the business side. So he liked to code. I like to do more on the business side. So I even remember like in high school, we had like this elective course of like a business class and like build a business plan. So I'm like, I built a business plan for RustyBrick. I can't find that. I wonder what it says. It'd be funny to read that now, but
That would be great to
so
get
I did
that.
the business and he did the software, and then we grew from there.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, that's crazy. That's a good origin story considering that like, there's nothing in between. I did have a question about what work you did or what work was you've done over the years, not related to Rusty Brick or in this space, but I suppose from day one really of being and going into adulthood, you just started the business and then just went from there.
Yeah, so we built some stuff while we are in high school. Nothing obviously serious for in high school. Like I said, local restaurant stuff. And then went to college. I went to a college in New York City. It's called Baruch. It's part of the city university. So I was like running from classroom to meeting to classroom to meeting to meet with prospects and so forth. And we got some big clients that way. We started building out like hospital scheduling software that turned into much bigger stuff. We hired employees. We built like a lot of cool not really we built websites, but not really. Our core was actually building software on the web in the early days, and that's what we do now. So it's a lot of software that makes businesses more efficient, like operational software, and that turned into building out mobile apps as well. So we do a lot of mobile development for iOS and Android. It initially started out with building out some like fun apps for the Jewish community, like prayer books and stuff like that. And then we started to build software like for taxi cabs companies to have like tablets in their taxi cabs to know what to know which stops to pick up at, swiping credit cards. We also built out stuff for I don't know, restaurants that use tablets and so forth. So we do a lot of custom development for clients. We also built out some of our own SaaS products and our own products that we sell directly to consumers. So we do a whole mix of that. It's not just client work, but a lot of our work these days is mostly client work.
Amazing. I mean, you said there about the cabs. You must have been the OG for Uber essentially as a concept. It sounds like maybe early days, but
no, it was actually for a taxi company, just so they have their own software, so the drivers themselves know what to pick. So it was actually old-fashioned concept, not an Uber concept, but giving them some software they could use internally.
Right. What sort of year was it when you first picked up in terms of business, in terms of getting selling software and things like that? When people started coming to you and it started heating up, really, what time of life was that?
I don't call it heating up. I mean, late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
So nothing really hot. I mean, I got into the search stuff in 2001, 2002, like how Google works and stuff like that. But before that, it was mostly just software.
Okay, perfect. So that's the time that you sort of transitioned to including Google and search as part of the business. Then going into the 2000s, it was something there.
Yeah, and in transition, it's RustyBrick still at its core. We make our money is building out software for companies. People don't realize that, but I don't really make money off of search, like SEO. I don't do SEO for people. I write about it because I love it. I find it passionate. It's not enough to. It makes some money here and there. Some years are better, some years are worse, but it's not like I could bank on that to support my family. I support my family through building software for companies. We have like a 15, 20 person team in our company that all they do is build software for companies. But SEO is more like a hobby, which sounds weird to the SEO community when they hear that, because it sounds like I do it 24/7, but it's really just like an hour or two in the morning, Monday through Friday for fun.
It's really interesting. I didn't think that. I thought it was heavy on the SEO side of things. So as a hobby, I suppose it stays a hobby when you don't make it work. So is it a case of separating those two things and then just focusing, like I say, on the hobby a couple of hours in the morning, and then RustyBrick is your main focus?
Correct. Exactly.
Perfect. How was it going into business and then having to begin managing staff and having sort of more responsibilities as the business grew? What was that like as an experience? I suppose over the years of that period.
Good question. Again, it was so organic. It was like the two of us like coding in a bedroom and then in a garage, and then we just got busier, so we hired some. We asked around the community, and there was another guy our age that does coding, so we hired him part-time, and then we finally got into an office. It was just everything was organically growing. It wasn't like, oh, we had this plan to do X, Y, and Z. It was like, oh, we got busier, we need another programmer, and we hired another one, and that's how we kind of like grew the business. So it wasn't like some master plan or any specific difficulties. Honestly, we're very blessed to have grown naturally and organically and not have to like take on huge debt to do so. Everything was just, no investors or anything like that. So it was all pretty streamlined, and it was like nothing like crazy to tell you in terms of like, oh, we invested $1 million in this and hire this venture capitalist to get behind us and did this type of marketing. It was all, and still is all, very organic.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the perfect origin story and the perfect story for business, isn't it? When it's organic and natural, which proves it works, I suppose. In terms of outside of business, before I sort of go into asking SEO-based questions to a degree, what is your setup? So you said you live in New York or near New York. What's life like out there? That's essentially what I'm saying. As someone that's never been to America, if you can believe that, what's it like out there in terms of the business space and sort of the personal life? Is it I suppose it's difficult to describe, isn't it, when you already live there? But
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
like, what's the work-life balance?
Yeah, what's the work-life balance? What do you do outside of that in New York? What's your passions outside of SEO and business?
So my passion is SEO. That's my hobby.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about work and so forth. Honestly, people call me a workaholic. Back in the old days, that was good. Now it's like looked down upon to work so much. I get up 5 o'clock. I start working. I probably work till about 10, 11 o'clock at night. We just we had an office for many, many years since obviously we started in the 90s. Everybody worked there until COVID. As soon as COVID hit, everybody went home and nobody wanted to come back. So I just renewed my lease to downsize the office significantly just last month. So we've been paying for an empty office, a pretty large office, for a while. And now we're pretty much mostly remote, although we have an office if people need to go in, we need to meet. But it's the work-life balance is for me is mostly just work. If you call SEO as a hobby, so that's my hobby as well. So I do a lot of that as well. I used to like playing basketball as a kid. Now I just literally just sit at my computer all day long and work. So it's kind of New York mentality of just working until you drop dead. But thankfully I do enjoy it. I enjoy my work.
Yeah,
So if
that's
that
the main thing,
helps.
isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people say golf, but SEO is like, why not? I mean, speaking of SEO, it's interesting that it's your hobby, but it's not one that you practice in terms of delivering SEO, I suppose. How did you manage to be on, I suppose, just so on the pulse with everything that has been changing throughout the years with Google? How have you managed to be kind of one of the number one guys for information, basically, when things are happening?
Right. It helps not, moving far away from your computer, meaning always being by your computer helps. I have a lot of data feeds set up, RSS, a lot of Twitter or X, set up. I track things across LinkedIn, social media, and so forth. I'm very good about tracking what's changing and what's going on. And of course, now over the years, people know that I'm the guy that tracks a lot of this stuff. So a lot of people actually send me stuff as well. But it's really about setting up different types of data feeds and bookmarks and RSS feeds and using various tracking tools to see what's changing across obviously the Google search engine, ranking algorithms, Google ads, what the community is talking about. I'm really focused on trying to see what's hot based on what SEOs and PPCers are noticing. So I track certain personalities on the industry. I track certain Googlers. I track different metrics across the industry just to keep on top of what's changing. And those slightly change over the years, so you have to update those tracking tools to do so. And some of it's manually, some of it's algorithmic. So I have different tools that I use to stay on top of it as well. Mostly homegrown stuff that I use.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, I think half of me or a little bit of me expected you to say there was some inside source that you could get, because that's how it feels from my side. You're so on the ball, it feels like you have some inside source.
Honestly,
I suppose,
yeah, you would think people at Google would tip me off on a lot of stuff. In fact, they don't. Some things I get like heads up, like on big core updates, like the March core update. I got a heads up. I met with people beforehand, but generally, 99% of the stuff I write about is stuff I find on my own or through non-Google sources.
well, that's fair. I mean, I suppose it's testament to your work ethic of just being on the ball all the time. Speaking of the March update, obviously that's the biggest update that's been this year, and probably from last year compared. How I imagine that was a very busy time for you, but what was that period like within March of getting the information of an update is coming, and then having to sort of decipher what is impacted by that? I suppose what are the main things there that you found that will be impacted, and then sort of reporting on that, because I suppose as it was rolling out, it's difficult to see where the big changes are on there.
Yeah, it's a good question. So this is actually it's spanning over many months. This probably goes back to the September helpful content update, and it's rough. It's the September update, which is 9 months ago or so, really had a big impact on the SEO space, big time. And then Google came out with a number of updates after that. With the March core update, it was really leading up to something that we thought would be big, because Google really told us this is their biggest core update ever in their history, and it incorporated the helpful content update. And we expected those that were hit by the helpful content update in September that did significant work to update their websites would have seen a recovery with that. And based on everything I've been tracking, stuff that Glenn Gabe has posted and others that people on my site comment on, nobody really saw any significant recovery or any recovery at all from that September health content update with the core update in March. And since then, no, nothing. We are expecting a new core update to come in the coming weeks, according to Google. What that means, when that will happen, is it going to be, tomorrow? Is it going to be in 2 months from now? We're not sure. And we're also expecting people to recover from that helpful content update in September with this next core update. We expected that with the March core update. We didn't see it. But we also saw significant changes obviously with any core update, you see significant changes, but we did expect some helpful people hit with the September helpful content update to recover, and they didn't. And nobody has really, from what I've seen, at least publicly. So it's a little concerning, but that was the biggest thing that was surprising to me, that nobody recovered, or nothing really. Some people will say they saw recoveries, but as a whole, 99% of the stuff that we've been tracking, nobody really saw a recovery from the health content update. And that was probably the biggest surprising thing from that update.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely surprising considering how long it's taken from September to get anything, which is not a lot really. What aspects of the September update and the March update sort of aid each other? So what was in the March update that we expected specifically to help from recovery that actually didn't help at all? Because I imagine they tried to plug some issues, but quite clearly it didn't work, did it?
It's hard to say. These core updates are now so many things. Back, when Google was doing Panda updates, Penguin updates, and before that, it was like, all right, this is about links. This is about this type of content. It's really hard to say when it comes to, specifics. Like Glenn Gabe continues to say, it's the kitchen sink approach. You got to cover everything. It's not just content quality. It's not just user experience. It's not just links. It's really everything about the website. The whole EAT stuff. It's really everything. So it's hard to say. I mean, it looked like with the helpful content update, Google really went after the SEO practices that kind of faked a lot of this stuff. Of course, how do you fake it? By really doing the real thing. Like, you really have to produce really good content. Are you faking producing really good content? So it was really hard to say. It's a lot of people did an analysis of websites that were hit hard by those updates. A lot of them looked like they were building out some really poor quality content that was just doing that just for the purpose of really just trying to rank. And Google said, you really need to build content that's helpful for users, not for search engines. But again, if you're building content that's helpful for search engines, is it not helpful for users? The whole thing is really weird. But if you look at like a number of websites, they kind of look like they were built in a way that was low quality, I guess. But at the same time, there are examples of sites that were hit that were not built in a low quality way. So it really is hard. I mean, you can't show one example and say this is one example or this is two examples. You can't do that because there was a lot of websites that maybe should not have gotten hit by those that are still doing really poorly. But then you can make an argument on why they were hit, because maybe the content isn't as good as they should have been. It's hard to say. Do you think searchers are suffering? Like Google searchers are suffering by the algorithm not surfacing the best type of content? I don't know. There's so much good content out there on the web right now that even if Google's not surfacing, maybe, I don't know, maybe this website, but there's 3 other websites that they could surface that would do just as good. I think you're okay. So it's really hard to make that argument that Google's doing a poor job overall with searcher, reliability and trustworthiness, but by not having 1 or 2 websites that maybe should have been there. But ultimately, Google has taken a lot of feedback from the SEO and creator and site owner communities. And hopefully this next core update will address a lot of the concerns, but I don't know. We have to wait and see. I'm not too confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it? That the sites that have been hit have seen little to no change, considering, I imagine, what they practice and what they do to try and change things. In terms of businesses that were hit last year and continue not to recover, do you think that Google has anything in mind for genuine businesses that are losing a lot of money on that front? Because it's interesting to read about the sort of informational websites that are heavy content that is just informational based, but then there are sites that are businesses and are losing money because they've fallen out of the results. Do you think there is anything from Google in answer to that, or at least an explanation, or is it all in the same boat sort of scenario?
Yeah, so Google's not being very specific about this. Google did say they met with a bunch of creators or whatever, I think 2 recently, and meeting with more in the future. Google did say they had that feedback form, and they're taking that into account. There have been many, many examples, like Danny Sullivan, the Google search liaison, has documented. John Mueller also said certain things that we should expect improvements in certain areas for sites that are really doing work to try to help users and try to create helpful content, and we should expect changes with that. But Google said that also with the March core update. So what Google says versus what actually happens isn't always the same thing, and because of that, I don't want to Google, yes, has made statements saying yes, you should be able to see good changes in the next core update, but Google also said that with the March core update. So I don't know. We have to wait and see by that, and I don't know. I don't want to make any promises because I don't run the algorithms there, but I am very well aware that Google and the Google engineers that work on these core updates are super aware of what the SEO community has been saying. Will that result in any changes? I don't know, but they are definitely aware of it.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and we can only, like I said, we can hope that those changes do make a difference. But if it's 3 times running, then I'm sure there'll be more uproar than the last time. But yeah, I think between September and March, and obviously since March, there has been a significant increase in how AI is used within search results, and for whether it be for websites that are built solely through SEO practices or ads. Do you think that AI being rolled out so quickly for Google has maybe taken away or impacted things a lot more than people realize?
So, I mean, that's not, so the AI overviews are basically like where the feature snippets would be. And there also are feature snippets there as well. So, and Google's only, so when Google first started testing this back, I guess at Google I/O 2023, so about over a year ago, they called it Search Generative Experience, and they were showing it for showing AI overviews, which we call it now, for a lot more queries than they're showing it right now. That Google launched it at Google I/O this year in 2024, so a few months ago, and they called them AI overviews, and they were showing up for a nice amount of queries, but a much less number of queries than they were showing for in the labs environment. Then there was a whole issue with showing embarrassing AI overviews for a lot of queries, and that got a lot of bad press for Google. So Google dialed it back significantly even more. I think some results are saying, it's showing for maybe 7% of queries or less, as opposed to showing for like 15 or 20% of queries. And that we call it named after Lily Ray, the Ray update for those AI overviews. And you don't see them as often as you used to by far. So they're not really impacting searchers that much because we're barely seeing them for many queries, especially in health-related queries. We're showing them a lot less often. And they're showing for a limited number of queries. So I don't know how much of an impact that may have on traffic to websites right now. They're generally also shown for more longer tail queries than shorter tail queries. So maybe less often for queries that may be big buck queries for many people. But Google is showing them for a lot of shopping related queries as well. So they have the shopping graph in there as well, which should generate traffic to those shopping sites because they are pretty good and clickable. The shopping AI overviews are very clickable and should generate money. I'm not so worried about those. It's more of the more generic types of AI overviews for other related queries that are not shopping related that are concerned. But for those also, like I said, they're not showing that often. When Google had to launch, Google had to launch AI overviews or something AI related in search for Wall Street, and they did that at Google I/O, and they did it in a limited way, and they still haven't launched their ads in AI overviews yet. Google said at Google Marketing Live a couple months ago that it's coming soon. Google just restated that in their earnings call last night that it's coming soon. And we do have ads above and below the AI overviews, and Google's being very cautious about that because they want to make sure that their number one money generator that generates like 80% of their income revenue is safe. And AI overviews does cause a concern for that. There is concern that AI overviews will generate less clicks and generate less clicks to ads. So Google is going to launch some tests around AI overview ads soon, and they have to make sure those ads actually deliver the click-through rate before they actually show up for more queries. So by Google launching how they launched it in the US a couple months ago, showing for a small percentage of queries, probably queries that did not generate ads anyway, it's safe. And they satisfied the Wall Street side, saying they did their AI thing, and they satisfied the concern around ads not generating clicks by showing them for a few not many ad generated queries anyway. So I think they did it in a good way. The question is, if this is the future, are they going to show it more and more often for more and more queries? And if so, how that might impact clicks to publishers organically, as well as clicks to advertisers who are paying money to get drive traffic to their websites to generate money. And obviously that money that generates clicks also generates Google a tremendous amount of revenue. So it's a really tight rope that Google has to balance. And I think they're doing it in a way that will not hurt their ad revenue too much or at all.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a perfect explanation. I think they definitely dialed AI back within a lot of high value queries. I don't think I saw the impact on ads as much as SEO, obviously being in the SEO space more, but ads have been probably just as heavily affected as other businesses, haven't they? Do you think the dialing back of AI that Google sort of went through over the last year, do you think it's also been seen with the Reddit side of things, the Reddit API and the introduction of those into the SERPs more heavily? I've seen that dialed back a lot more. Do you think that's sort of gone under the radar slightly? But is there a latest sort of update of what's happening with Reddit from your side, or is it gone pretty quiet?
No, so there's two things. Well, three things. One is Google has a licensing deal with Reddit to get their content faster through some type of fire hose. Two is Reddit showing in the Google organic search results a lot in the discussion and forum box, as well as just ranking Reddit organically very well. And three is that Reddit is now being sourced a lot less frequently in the AI overviews. They were shown a lot often in the AI reviews. Bright Edge came out with a report showing it used to show about 4% of AI overviews had Reddit results in them, and now they're like maybe less than 1%, and also Quora as well. And because of that, Google's trusting, Reddit less often in those AI overviews. So it's like really three different things. AI overviews are showing Reddit less often, which again is not a huge deal because AI overviews aren't shown for that many queries right now. Two is that Google is still showing Reddit very, very often. Reddit's traffic has exploded, especially when you look at the traffic from organic search. And a lot of that has to do with Google saying, hey, searchers want to see more firsthand experience, and Reddit has firsthand experience. And Google's been talking about that for a couple of years now, 2 years now, that people want more snackable, first person related answers in the search results. And Google's answer to that was to show Reddit often, especially in the discussion forum box, and to show it in the top of the search results. I do hope Google will dial that back because we've seen many, many examples of it showing really unsafe and embarrassing stuff, and mostly joke related stuff. But at the same time, Google also wants to show it for the people who want to have firsthand experiences and stuff like that. It should show. So Google has to figure out that algorithm to decide when to show it for what types of queries and where to show it in the Google search results.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It was definitely a hot topic when it first started rolling out, and it is. I think from an SEO point of view, it's quite interesting to have that sort of Reddit is the first thing that they've introduced where you can rank number one within a day if you wanted to. I've seen it myself from searching, and it was like posted 1 day ago and you're already there. It was that scenario to me was something that I had to sort of question and research about. What do you think the impact of that is for people trying to produce the same content as people are like answering on Reddit on websites, but rank in 6 weeks, not a day? Do you think that will change, or do you think it is a case of that's the landscape now? That's what happens.
So we've had this over the years. I mean, it used to be Blogger back in the early days. Then it was this website or that website. Twitter, you could get into Google search. There was all these types of times where Google would start to rank these types of vertical spaces really well in Google search, and then SEOs would see it. SEOs would then go there and abuse it and basically ruin it. SEOs ruin all the good things that are out there, and that's Google's fault and also SEO's fault. So Google's going to rank Reddit, and SEO's going to be like, well, if my website doesn't rank, I'm going to go ahead and post my content on Reddit, and so forth. The biggest issue is that real publishers that are producing content on their own websites, they see people literally just taking their title and taking their content, copying and pasting into a Reddit post, not linking to it, and Google ranking it above the original source. And I think Google has seen many, many examples of this happening, and Google has to fix it because it's kind of like a joke now. So SEOs could do whatever they want and take advantage of it while it's lasting, but it's not a long-term strategy. I can't imagine Google doing this for a long-term, for like another 2 years from now. It's not going to last. So, sure, go ahead and mess around with it now, but I don't think this is a long-term strategy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it will change so much that people trying to get impact from it now will be very much a short-term impact. Do you think that now Reddit has been introduced as that sort of main thing for Google with the agreement, do you think TikTok is on the horizon to have that same sort of impact, or do you think that's a complete entity on its own that Google won't go after, depending on what they think with YouTube and crossing over with that sort of thing? Is that been talked about at all with TikTok, or is it sort of quiet on that front?
So the video stuff is a little harder. TikTok is all video based, so it's a little bit harder. Google, when it comes to Reddit, it's mostly content, so it's easier for Google to show that as a core search result. Google has a specific, feature or SERP layout for short videos. You see them sometimes named as short videos or quick takes, and they come in different types of panels. So there is a box that shows a lot of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Shorts, all those types of things in the search results. So there is a dedicated space for that. And I think Google will continue to surface those. And they call them, I think, snackable elements in the Google search results. You're not going to see less of that. I think you probably see more of that. But I don't know if it will be a number one ranking type of thing because Google generally tends to rank content. There are examples of videos like how do I do this, or how to do this, or maybe certain types of queries that are video centric will show those. But I don't think it's going to be like the next Reddit.
No, definitely not. I don't think there is an algorithm that can do that for videos, is there? Do you think that YouTube, obviously YouTube Shorts came into the frame, is it going to be a contrasting thing with Google using YouTube video content within the SERPs to make sure that they are keeping up with that, and then also making sure that TikTok is not completely pushed out? I imagine that there is a conflict there for them, but they wouldn't openly speak about what they want to do with Shorts and YouTube compared to TikTok in the SERPs, would they?
That's going to be hard. I mean, Google has direct access to YouTube. I don't know. Google says they never give it preferential treatment, but I mean, at the same time, YouTube is the biggest video site in the world. So, and people post videos there all the time. TikTok is the biggest, probably short video platform out there in the world. So Google shows a tremendous amount of TikTok videos in those short video carousels. They show a tremendous amount from TikTok. They show a tremendous amount from Instagram, from Facebook, and from YouTube Shorts. I don't know. I don't think there's been a study done yet on which platform does Google show the most in terms of the short video formats. But I anecdotally, I think there's a lot of TikToks there. I think it's probably less YouTube Shorts than anything else. Although Google shows a lot of YouTube videos, longer form videos in the Google search results. But again, YouTube probably has the most and best quality longer form video content than any other platform out there. Of course, Google could show Vimeo and other platforms, but generally YouTube has the most out there. So Google does make a point saying, yeah, YouTube is the number one video site out there. But when it comes to short videos, TikTok is showing a lot of short form content that Google services a lot in those quick takes and short video carousels.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they do have to always make sure they're not giving preferential treatment regardless of if they do or not. But if we look back to, before the pandemic, just maybe further bit behind the pandemic, TikTok really wasn't a thing at all. And obviously over the last, 6-7 years, probably, it's been growing so much. One of my final questions is, what do you think we can expect to see that is of maybe that magnitude or above or near there by 2030 within the Google space or within sort of online space in general? Do you think there is anything from what is there anything that you expect that will be huge by 2030, like we have seen with TikTok or what Google have been doing recently?
I mean, AI is the clear answer for all this
Yeah.
stuff. That's what's happening right now. I mean, I have the Apple Vision Pro right above me. I thought that would be bigger than it is. I really haven't used it more than 3 times or so. And I paid a fortune for it, but it looks good in the background, I guess. But I think AI is the future. I mean, a lot of this meta stuff, metaverse, AR, 3D, virtual reality stuff should be big, but I don't know. I mean, AI seems to be the thing that's really is catching on big time. 2030 is far away, but AI is at its infancy right now. And I do think
Yeah.
every single company you look at it from across Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Apple less than most companies, but Apple's also, I mean, Apple AI, Apple Intelligence and so forth. So you see a lot of companies putting a lot of money towards it. I know PricewaterhouseCoopers is spending over $1 billion incorporating AI into their stuff. So it's across everything. So it is a big deal. And I think 2030 is going to be you'll see a lot of AI everywhere.
Definitely. I think AI will be very Fallout-esque, I think, with robots and AI. But it's best not to think about that till it comes around, I suppose, in some ways. Um, I think my last question that I wanted to ask you was sort of quite open-ended. But is there anything that's next for you? Is there anything anything that you're doing, or anything that you haven't quite revealed yet? That you don't reveal the secrets, but is there anything in the next year or so that you're looking forward to producing, or is it a case of this is perfect?
Nothing's perfect, but it's pretty much more of the same. One thing is important for me is being consistent, and that's what I've been for the past 20 plus years. I hope, obviously, if you read my content from the early days, it's hopefully my content is a lot better today. I'm using a lot of more AI in my content, not the words themselves, but the images. I don't use AI to write my content. I don't see that changing. I've tried numerous times. I just don't like the personality of it. But I mean, I have some ideas in terms of features that I like to build on, I guess, and specifically in the SEO world, in the Search Engine Roundtable website, around better tracking of algorithm updates, and filtering, all that type of stuff. But in general, it's going to be more of the same, just producing consistent content quickly, and so users know when to expect to see it. So no, nothing out there. More of the same.
Well, more of the same is exactly what I want. I continue to look forward to your updates and reading your search engine blogs. They do provide me with the updates before I have them, so it's really helpful. And I think anyone that is coming into SEO, or even if they're a veteran in SEO, should always read your blogs, because it's so easy to understand, and you can. It's not bite sized, but you can take it, understand it, and then it's kind of, you're clued up. Then, instead of having to research, you're one of the best in that space.
No, I agree.
So,
I try hard not to put too much fluff in or any fluff in my stories. There's a lot of content out there. You got to read a lot of it to get to the point. I keep it really short because, one is, I don't have much time to write it, and two is, you guys don't have much time. You have to work. You want to get what you need to do and move on. So I try to value my readers' time, and also value my time. It just drives me insane when you hear somebody speaking on stage, and they literally could have said the same thing, instead of in 30 minutes, in literally 3 minutes, and it drives me insane. So I try to value people's time. That's, you never get your time back. So
that's it. Where I'm sure I can speak for the SEO community when we say we appreciate that and we love it.
I appreciate that too. Thanks.
I won't take up any more of your time, but I really appreciate you coming on and speaking to me. It's been very insightful, and an honor, really, to have one of my gurus to speak to.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, you can click on the links on the screen now, or subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.